Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Prashant Kishor and the Congress have broken up again. After days of discussions that had virtually sealed the poll strategist's entry into the party, today two cryptic tweets ended the matter. There was first a tweet from Randeep Singh Surjewala, part of a committee that Sonia Gandhi had set up on Prashant Kishor's proposal. He just said that he had been invited to join the party as part of an empowered action group on 2024 with defined responsibility, and he declined. We appreciate his efforts and suggestions. And then you had Prashant Kishor's tweet that came just a little while later. The important part here, where he says that the Congress needs leadership and collective will to fix the deep-rooted structural problems through transformational reforms. Ultimately, though, it boils down to this. Prashant Kishor wanted full control. The Congress gave him a committee instead to be a part of. There were other issues of trust, of a party unwilling to embrace an outsider, and much, much more. My colleague Arvind Gunasekar joining us with more on this. Arvind, was this a sudden breakdown that happened over the last couple of days, especially with Prashant Kishor flying out to meet Congress rival KCR in Telangana over the weekend, or was this brewing actually for some days?
Nidhi, if you could read both the tweets, a very important message in both the tweet is regarding the role of Prashant Kishor that in the party. In fact, in both the tweets, it clearly mentioned that Congress party had offered Prashant Kishor to join the party as part of this empowered action group. That was the offer that the Congress party gave to Prashant Kishor. And Prashant Kishor, we all know that he has always dealt only with the leadership. But this time the Congress party in fact constituted a committee comprising of 8 members, and Prashant Kishor was made to present his proposal before the 8-member committee. And even then the Congress party had offered him only to be a member of this empowered action group. That seems to be the bone of contention here, whereas Prashant Kishor did not want to be part of this committee after committee, and then he did not want to be part of this group with a limited role. So that seems to be the real reason for this breaking up again, yet another breakup of Congress and PK saga. But like you mentioned, this does not come all of a sudden over the weekend. In fact, what we are being told is that the inconsistency that the Congress party is pointing with in regard to Prashant Kishor, and on Prashant Kishor's side, what he is pointing to is that the Sarkari style of functioning, that he thought that he will be getting a free hand to reform or restructure the party ahead of 2024. But because the Congress party came up with committee after committee, that didn't go well with Prashant Kishor. But whereas with Congress party, his association with IPAC and also his inconsistency changing from Gujarat to Bihar and also to national arena, and again going back saying that he is not still clear about joining the party, seems to be the real reason behind this breaking of ties between both Prashant Kishor and Congress.
All right, Arvind, thanks very much for joining us there with that. And joining us on the program now, we have a panel of veteran journalists and commentators who've been covering the Congress party and Indian politics for years now. Ashutosh is with us, Shivam Vij and Neerja Chaudhary. Thank you very much to all of you for being with us. Shivam Vij, to you first. Are you surprised at all that this happened? I think, you had two volatile entities on both sides, and some were skeptical that this would be a marriage that would even last very long, even if it had happened. But given the headwinds on both sides, are you surprised?
I'm not surprised at all. In fact, I was expecting this. I think the Congress party and Mr. Prashant Kishor have been in an on-off relationship since 2016. I think both sides badly want each other, but as the Hindi movie dialogue says, ye shaadi nahi ho sakti.
But क्यों नहीं हो सकती शिवम विज? मतलब, if the Congress doesn't wake up to the crisis it's in at this point, when will it wake up?
No, I think the seriousness with which they were pursuing talks for a whole week or so actually suggests that they have finally woken up to the crisis. The kind of frenetic activity we have seen in this Congress Prashant Kishor talk suggests, and for the Congress party to be publicly wooing one man itself tells you that the Congress has woken up to the crisis, and Congress is acknowledging. For the Congress communications chief to tweet that we were talking to him and he has declined, this acknowledges, I think, that the Congress party feels they themselves do not have the wherewithal, the ideas, the implementation gusto even to revive and revamp the party. So I think the Congress party did show intent to, did show acknowledgement that they are not doing that well anymore. They've come down from the high horse they were earlier riding. But I think
obviously not enough to embrace an outsider. But Ashutosh, some would say that the Congress may have dodged a bullet, that, would they have taken a bigger risk by jumping into an embrace with Prashant Kishor, given that, yes, he's an outsider, that he's not ideologically aligned with the party or with any party for that matter. He's worked with so many, including the BJP. How do you see it?
Nidhi, I think let's not jump to the conclusion. I think during courtship this does happen, and the relationship, sometimes it looks like it has broken and the relationship is almost over. I still feel that the relationship is not, if this courtship is not converting the marriage, let's wait for some more time. Second thing, I think the Prashant Kishor was getting very ambitious. Prashant Kishor has a good resume in terms of winning elections, but winning elections with those who were seen to be winning elections. Second point, I think Prashant Kishor has not done well with those who were losing elections. Like Prashant Kishor could not do a single thing in Goa when the Trinamool Congress are contesting election, and he could not do a single thing when in UP in 2017 when the Akhilesh Yadav and Congress party had tied up. And this time when he had an alliance, he had a tied up with Amrinder Singh, and suddenly he broke that relationship. Third point, I think the most important thing is that Prashant Kishor as a politician, because he wants to enter into the Congress party as a politician who's claiming that he can make the Congress party again a winnable party. The issue is Prashant Kishor has not done politics per se as of now. He has only been helping the political parties who had a good leaders, had a base, had a good social base also. To build a political party is not the domain of Prashant Kishor. He might succeed. I'm not sure about that. I'm not talking about in future. But as of now, he has not shown the talent to build a political party. He was a vice president of Janata Dal United when not long ago. But he could not win the confidence of his own.
But if you look at the presentation, I mean, the draft of the presentation he had presented to the Congress Neerja Chaudhary, I mean, some things are so obvious, like, that sense of entitlement and sycophancy, jaded and aged leadership, lack of inner party democracy. And the suggestions he made, some were pretty radical in that sense. The point is, whatever the Congress is doing right now, Neerja Chaudhary, is clearly not working for the party. So is this a missed opportunity, you think, to just take a chance on something completely out there like PK and see where it goes?
I think that has been one of the considerations, and I'm told in one of the meetings, Priyanka Vadra said this, that nothing else has worked, so why not try him? Certainly in today's modern day election management, you need somebody like Prashant Kishor. You could do with somebody like Prashant Kishor. You could do with something like IPAC, because election winning has become a very complex business, and you could use the latest technology, the communication skills to influence narratives, themes, etc., the new media. But the question that arises is, do you outsource your party, its thinking, its strategy making to an expert? Or do you use the services of the expert to augment your efforts? Now, that was the dilemma for the Congress party. Prashant Kishor wanted a completely free hand. You do what I tell you to do. And when Sonia Gandhi set up this committee to go into his proposals, the committee came back with a certain amount of reservation. She set up the empowered committee to look at it, of which he was going to be a member. He was not going to be the driving force, which he would have wanted. And that was not acceptable to him. Now, the old guard in the party obviously expressed these reservations, that this could not be acceptable, and therefore the parting of the ways. But I think, where he is absolutely right is the Congress has to have a collective will, which it lacks, and it has to sort up its leadership issues.
So you think he pushed it too far? You think he went too far by pushing for a greater role for himself?
Look, other parties have not gone about it in the way that the Congress had. The BJP did not give the impression when it had him before the 2012 elections of Narendra Modi CM elections, or before the parliamentary elections in 2014, or even a few hours ago, KCR in Andhra Pradesh. They
Yeah, but
will
those
not
are
go
all
about
parties
it like
on a
that.
much stronger wicket. They're on a
So
much
the
stronger
Congress is
wicket.
given the impression, he is going to be the Karta Dharta. For a grand old party
True.
of India,
Ashutosh.
now that is, very, very surprising, the way
Ashutosh,
they've
yes.
gone about it.
See,
Yes,
again, I'll go back to my original argument. The Prashant Kishor has not built a party. Today, the crisis in the Congress party has to rebuild itself, has to reborn. Prashant Kishor has won elections only for those who were winning elections. Mamata Banerjee, KCR, or for that matter, Narendra Modi in 2014, or Lalu Prasad Yadav, Nitish Kumar in Bihar. He hasn't won election for those who were not losing elections. So second point is, I think it's the Prashant Kishor has to prove his political mettle, that he can lead a political party, he can win elections, he can rebuild a political party. I think we are being very unfair with the Congress party. And if you see the formula with the Prashant Kishor is given, if he continues to believe that Rahul Gandhi can be the prime ministerial candidate and he can make Congress a winning combination, I think we are still not hitting at the bullseye. The problem with the Congress party is that the Congress party is suffering from the cancer, and the cure is that Rahul Gandhi should be removed. Somebody else has to take over, and the freshness, new energy has to take part. If he feels that the Rahul Gandhi can be the prime ministerial candidate and Congress can still win in 2024, I am not willing to buy that.
Right. So let me ask Shivam Vij about that, because again, when Prashant Kishor talks about the Congress needing a collective will, look at the situation today, Shivam. Rahul Gandhi is abroad again and apparently incommunicado now for the last 10-12 days. So he's not even been part of these discussions, and yet, he's disinterested on one side, and on the other, he still somehow manages to call the shots in the party. How has the Congress even sort of squared this off yet? It's not even willing to accept, a Rahul Gandhi-less Congress, is it?
I think, and that is what Prashant Kishor's tweet hints at. It says that the party needs leadership, which is a way of saying the party does not have leadership. The leaders are always in Europe, it seems. They're not doing what it takes. The tweet says that he needs collective will, the party, which means the party is divided. Half the party saying something else, half the party saying something else. Every member of that meeting is planting their own version in the media. It says the party is unwilling to fix the deep-rooted structural problems, right? And it is not into transformational reforms. It only wants incremental change. Now, the issue here is that the Congress party is talking to this one individual who is regarded as some kind of a doctor of elections, but is unwilling to take the medicine, right? Now, even if the Congress party said we are willing to take the medicine, it seems the doctor has decided that they will not actually take the medicine. So why should I take that risk? Because if Prashant Kishor takes the risk with Congress and the Congress doesn't take the medicine and the Congress fails, then Ashutosh ji will say that Prashant Kishor is ineffective. This is what happened in UP. The Congress party went back on the commitment it made. Today, people say Prashant Kishor lost UP. So now if the patient doesn't take the medicine, you can't really blame the doctor, right? Now, why does KCR want Prashant Kishor if KCR thinks he is winning? Ashutosh ji said Prashant Kishor only goes to those who are already winning. So is KCR foolish that he wants PK? If Mamata was already winning, why did she want PK? And Ashutosh ji said he has never built a party. In Andhra Pradesh, Jagan Mohan Reddy's party did not exist on the ground. For 2 years, he made him do a yatra and the party was built. The headquarters of the YSRCP was in Hyderabad, outside the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now, in the case of the Congress party, what you need is not a revamp. You cannot revive something that is dead. You need to create it anew, which takes such a huge effort. Now, the ask is so huge and your seriousness is such that you are sitting in Europe, and that's why it's not working, as simple as that.
Ashutosh, you wanted to respond to that?
First of all, I think we overestimate Prashant Kishor in our own discussion. And first of all, let's understand this. In 2014, Prashant Kishor was with Modi. Modi won and got elections, became the prime minister, 282 seats. In 2019, there was no Prashant Kishor. BJP still won and got 303 seats. In 2016, Mamata Banerjee won more than 200 seats without Prashant Kishor. In 2021, with Prashant Kishor, he again got more than 200 seats. In Punjab elections, The Aam Aadmi Party won with 92 seats. There was no Prashant Kishor, come what may. In 2020, Prashant Kishor was with the Aam Aadmi Party and it still could not get more than 67 seats. It got only 62 seats. So let's not overhype what Prashant Kishor is good in.
Let's not overhype Prashant Kishor.
Let me complete. Shivam, let me complete. What I'm saying is Prashant Kishor is good in terms of streamlining the system, giving the feedback to the leadership, but to be a leader of a political party, to restructure a political party, to create a communication strategy, that requires the political impulse. And the problem with the Congress party is Rahul Gandhi do not have that political impulse. The Congress party needs another leader who can match in terms
I think you
of
both agree on that.
strategies.
I think you both agree on that. Shivam, quickly, I have to move.
I think nobody disagrees with that. The question is, why has Congress been wooing Prashant Kishor in this public way? This is unprecedented, to woo one individual in this way, to write a tweet. Randeep Sucha write a tweet that we offered him a job and he declined. This is incredible. If someone is overestimating Prashant Kishor, then according to Ashutosh ji, it's the Congress party.
All right. Well. Let me just go across to Veer Sanghvi, veteran journalist and commentator, joining us now for his take on this. Veer Sanghvi, a lost opportunity, or do you think there's still a door open? You never say never in politics, right?
Yeah, I think there's a door open, Nidhi. I don't think it's necessarily all over. The fact that there are two very civilized tweets, that they've obviously been written in coordination, suggests that there is no ill will. Look, this was always going to be a negotiation. Sonia Gandhi did not want somebody who didn't understand, according to her, the Congress ideology, was an outsider. Prashant Kishor is through with being a political doctor. He wanted to be in politics. He knew, I think, he's aware of Sonia's views, that there would be resistance within the Congress. So it was a question of who needed who more. He made his move now after the last negotiation didn't work, when he thought the Congress was desperate enough to get him in. Originally, I think Sonia's view was always that you're welcome to come in, but you come in rather as the doctor does. You advise the patient on what's wrong, you prescribe medication, and when the patient recovers, you leave. That was not Prashant's view. Prashant's view was that the doctor moved in and took over the household. Obviously, there was going to be resistance to that, and the negotiation has gone on. And I think it floundered ultimately not because Prashant wanted some kind of organizational responsibility, but because of the things he wanted to do. People keep talking about the old guard, and the old guard opposed him. The old guard didn't actually oppose him. The old guard is so fed up and so desperate, they were willing to take anything. The people who really opposed him were the people around Rahul Gandhi. What he wanted was not just for Rahul to have a much more reduced role, and you will note from your debate that the one thing everybody agreed on was that the Congress needs to replace Rahul as its face. But the people around Rahul also had to go. And I think they resisted. And that was where the most resistance came from. And that's where the whole thing ultimately collapsed. We're all agreed that the Congress is in trouble. We're all agreed that it needs to do something. We're all agreed, I think, also that it had nothing to lose by getting Prashant Kishor. It'll just get worse and worse. But in a political party, particularly when you're down and out, the people who've hung around you, who've been loyal to you, who say we will stick with you no matter what, it becomes difficult to tell them, hey guys, you got to go. We've got this new guy called Prashant Kishor who says you're useless.
See, we were also discussing before you came on the fact that Rahul Gandhi is not even in the country yet again.
Yeah.
And that seems to have been a sore point as well, that he's not even part of these important discussions. So he is obviously reluctant on one hand, and yet he continues to be there on the other, as I said right at the beginning. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, Nidhi. I think that's one of the great mysteries of the Congress. Almost anybody you speak to, and you saw the unanimity in your debate, agrees that if the Congress goes to the next parliamentary election with Rahul Gandhi as its leader, it will do even worse than it has done before. You can't keep doing the same thing again and again and think that voters will react differently. So when we all see this, presumably Rahul keeps saying that power is a bad thing and he's not in politics for power, sees this too. So why does he hang on? Why is he not willing to let go? If he really cares about the Congress, I mean, he likes going abroad, maybe he should take a sabbatical, go off for 2 years, get a PhD or something, leave the Congress to its own devices. It can only prosper.
Do you think the party can move beyond the family? Because I thought one of the interesting things that Prashant Kishor had presented to them was, okay, let Sonia Gandhi continue as party president, but create the post of a working president who is a non-Gandhi. And this should not be, there's no alternative to that, as he had put it in that presentation. Is that workable? You think that they would ever bite the bullet on something like that?
I think so. I think the reason they called him back was because they had agreed to that kind of formula whereby Sonia is the top person, is the face, and someone like Prashant becomes working president and does everything. But what is that everything? Prashant essentially is a disruptor. He would have got rid of lots and lots of people. If you do that, there will be a pushback. And I think that's what happened. I think when we talk about the Gandhis, we're really talking about two different things. There's not that much resistance to Sonia Gandhi being the leader. The resistance, the criticism is all to the siblings, to Priyanka and Rahul. And the fact that Priyanka was pushing for Prashant and the fact that Rahul has been away suggests that they had also been reconciled to not being high profile or whatever. But it's difficult to do in a party like this when everybody gets his job, not because of performance, but because of personal loyalty, and they put pressure on you. The only way this can work really is if Rahul removes himself from the scene. And unfortunately, he's not willing to do that.
Therefore, last question, Veer Sanghvi, what does that portend for opposition politics as we head towards the 2024 general election? If you have a continued weakened Congress that continues to be on the decline, and it is supposed to be the pan-India main principal party, what does that mean then for the challenge to Modi? Because the AAP isn't quite there yet, and it would take time for them to fill in those gaps.
Yeah, Nidhi, I mean, figures vary, but between 150 to 220, depending who you listen to, seats are really between the Congress and the BJP. The bulk of the BJP seats come, the fact that it has a strong political base from those areas, because it's confident of beating the Congress in the vast majority of those seats. As of now, that's going to happen again, and Mr. Modi is undefeatable. The only hope is if the Congress revives, and the events of today suggest that's a long way off.
Veer Sanghvi, thanks very much for that perspective on an important political story, and lots of feedback on coup tonight. Paragav has asked whether the Congress is caught in its own internal politics. Navneet has said this kind of behavior of the Congress is just benefiting parties like AAP, which are getting stronger and stronger. Well, the jury is out. Let's see how this unfolds. Thanks for joining us.